You're listening to the Talking Headways Podcast Network.
Talking Mondays. Keep moving on. Keep moving on. Talking Mondays. Keep moving on. Keep moving on. Talking Mondays. Keep moving on. Keep moving on.
Happy Monday. This is Mondays at the Overhead Wire, sponsored by our super generous Patreon supporters. I'm Jeff Wood, your host, and joined by Han Solo. That's right, every Wookiee's favorite right-hand man is here to share the news on cities with you. So, as we do when we're Han Solo, we go over some of the upcoming and past Talking Headways episodes that we've got in the hopper or in the tank. 2 weeks ago, we had Lawrence Frank come on the show to talk about his longtime work linking public health and the built environment and transportation. As you all may have heard, his work was the basis for creating WalkScore. So we had a really interesting discussion. He has got a lot of really interesting things to say about the connection between the built environment and public health. And, he was one of the earliest people that I knew in terms of reading a book for class in undergrad. Or actually grad school, was in like 2004 when his book came out. So Tracy McMillan, who's a frequent contributor to this show, was my professor, and she had a class called Built Environment and Public Health, and we read this book. And so it's great to talk with Lawrence about all the stuff that we talked about then, and then also what's been going on since then, which is a long time now, 20 plus years, 22 years now, oh my gosh. We also released our conversation with Melissa and Chris Bruntlett on their new book last Thursday. Really, really great book. Go check that out if you get a chance. Check out the episode if you get a chance. Really a lot of really great stuff about care infrastructure, about the women changing cities. Really good stuff in there. Our Kingwood episode is complete. I've mentioned a few times that episode. I think it's probably boring everybody by now. I'm still debating on some audio stuff, but it's complete. It's finished. Everything's done. I have a full episode. I just kind of sit there every time I listen to it. I listen to that piece and then I'm like, maybe if somebody wants to like listen to it and let me know if it sounds like it's a problem, I'd love to. If somebody wants like a preview, maybe if you want to do that, send me an email, theoverheadwire@gmail.com, and maybe I'll send you a copy of that episode. It's finished, but I just want to know if the audio is going to cause problems. We also chatted with Yona a couple weeks ago, and we'll have our usual predictions episode probably coming out this Thursday. It's going to be a two-parter, as the last few have been, so that's great. And it was a fun conversation this time again, and we laughed at a lot of the stuff we predicted last time, and had some new predictions for next year as well. Jeremy Wells is coming on the show to talk about his book, Managing the Magic of Old Places. I'm still reading through that one, so we'll have him coming on soon. Stephen Krim is scheduled to come on the show from the New York MTA to talk more about congestion pricing. I'm super excited about that one as well. So always a lot to talk about. Lots of stuff on the burner and on the book piles. We keep moving forward. Lots of things coming in. Lots of episodes that are planned as well. And so I'm looking forward to sharing those all with you all. Also, I mentioned last Mondays that this month is the 10th anniversary of us doing the newsletter as a paid product. So we've been doing it for 20 years in total, and we've been doing it for 10 years as a paid newsletter. So that's what's been keeping us going in addition to this podcast. I'm happy with everything we've created thus far and the information that we've shared and all the stuff that we've put together. So thanks everybody for being on board with us. Also, thanks to everybody who's ordered Bus and Bike scarves. If you'd like to order one, just head on over to theoverheadwire.com and email me at theoverheadwire@gmail.com. The bus scarves are back in stock. The bike scarves are back in stock. Also, thanks for sending in all those pictures of folks wearing scarves at events and rallies and things like that. Yeah, so I'm also working on designing one more. I know I've been saying this for like a couple years now, actually, but I have some like drawings in front of me of actually been doing it. So I feel like I'm moving forward on it a little bit. I still have to like do that monthly subscription to Adobe Illustrator to get it put together, but we're thinking about it. The theme is like, high-speed rail, trains, trams, light rail, something along those lines. I'm not sure what the catchphrase is yet, but we're working on it. As we always note, we want to really thank everybody for supporting the show, whether that's on Patreon, patreon.com/theoverheadwire, or buying books off the bookshop site, bookshop.org/shop/the overheadwire. I'm leaving that in. You can also go to the bookshop's shop and you can order any book you want. If it's from our shop, then it'll give us credit for you finding it. Also, people are ordering the Cars Are Cholesterol t-shirts and any merch that they can dream up. I've seen some interesting things come across that people have put the Cars Are Cholesterol logo on. Richard Wozensky designed it. bit.ly/Cars Are Cholesterol. You can find him on Instagram at Dick David Sketches. Go check that out if you get a chance. All of these things make great gifts, so if you want to order something and send it to somebody else, we'd appreciate that too. We also strongly suggest folks sign up for the newsletter. We've got a new YouTube explainer up telling people how to use the archive, so you can go to youtube.com/theoverheadwire. And also, if you haven't already, support the show on Patreon. I don't know what my S's and P's and all that today. I just can't talk for some reason. Go to support the show on Patreon. You can get the show free of outside ads by going and giving $1 a month. That's the least they'll let you subscribe with on Patreon. So go check that out if you get a chance. And so we post this show and Talking Headways on Thursdays, sometimes a little bit earlier up on the Patreon feed. So if you get that feed in your podcatcher, the Patreon feed in your podcatcher, then you might get it a little early on a Wednesday afternoon or a Monday evening for the shows that we have coming out. Also, thanks to everybody for listening and supporting the show by just listening to the show and writing in and sending notes and all that really great stuff. I really appreciate it. All the kind words at conferences when we go. Last time we were at Impact and we got some really, really good comments from folks and made me almost cry because it made me so happy that people listen to the show and take what our guests say to heart and feel like that they're getting something from it. So I appreciate that. This is episode 186. We're live and in session. And before we get to the show, I want to let folks know that they can get this podcast and Talking Headways wherever you find podcasts, including iHeartRadio, Spotify, Overcast, Pocket Casts, and of course, Apple Podcasts. Thanks to everybody who subscribes through podcatchers. It's probably the reason why you're listening to this episode right now. So thanks a bunch. So here we are at the news. Here are a few stories that piqued our interest from the newsletter over the last few weeks. As always, if you want to get a subscription to the newsletter, you can do so by going to theoverheadwire.com. You can take a 2-week free trial. Free trial, only need your email address. And then if you want to unsubscribe after 2 weeks, or if you have gone for a really long time and you want to unsubscribe, or a short time, you can unsubscribe anytime. I think folks are finding that out. Those emails are not shared or distributed with anybody, nobody. And I'll delete them if I need to. So feel free to sign up for that 2-week trial. And then if you're done, then you're done. That's cool. But a lot of people sign up and then they stick around for a really long time. I've had a lot of folks sign up for that full 10 years that we've been doing the newsletter. So I really appreciate that. Okay, so first up, Fastracks likely won't be completed as advertised. The 2004 ballot measure that funded a region-wide light rail and commuter rail network in the Denver region won't be completed, says the chairman of the transit agency's board. 78 miles of rail have been completed as part of the expansion, but there are noticeable absences to the original plan, including a line to Boulder. The agency is not allowed to borrow money under state law and does not have available resources to complete the lines, but partnering with the state on a front range rail line could be a solution. This was by Tony Gorman and Ray Solomon in Colorado Public Radio, which, by the way, public radio stations have been killing it lately. Seriously, you guys have all the good stuff. I appreciate it. Yeah, so basically, Fastracks, this was a big deal. Like when I was in grad school, actually, we were talking about grad school, 2004, and Lawrence Frank's book. This is actually when this passed, and I remember coming in the day after the election, and people were really excited about it. My friend Andrea, who was in my class, was really excited about it because she was from Denver, and so there was a lot of stuff that was people were excited about, and a lot of stuff got built. There's a lot of rail lines there, commuter rail lines, electric commuter lines that really new electric commuter lines haven't been built in many places, but they got built there, as well as light rail expansion too. So there's lots of really interesting things going on back then. And, over time, the amount of the lines cost went up. The line to Boulder got sidelined. There's a lot of stuff that happened because of that. There's been squawking back and forth between the governor and local folks, the board of RTD as well. And so here we are many years later. I think the governor really, really wants to get something to Boulder, really, really wants to finish Fastracks. A lot of state legislators want to finish Fastracks, especially if it was supposed to go in their district and didn't. And then the board just says the other day is like, big surprise, we're probably not going to be able to finish this whole thing. But, the Fastracks plan was really a compromise. And it was a compromise between kind of suburban cities and the city of Denver and, the MPO area as a whole. And honestly, in today's environment, post-pandemic, with the way that transit systems and people operate, that central city commuter shed system of running transit really, really doesn't work anymore. And so I appreciate that these lines are finished, but if you had to redo it over again, they wouldn't be the lines that people built, I bet. I'm sure the lines do pretty well on their own, but at the same time, there's a lot of the network that could be built out in the Denver region, a lot of the grid, bus network and stuff like that could be built that really, 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 really could be, the future. So really interesting to look back, really interesting to see where we were, where we got to, and then what people are saying now. Next up, social housing tax more than anticipated. A tax meant to raise money for social housing in Seattle has generated twice the expected revenue. $115 million has been raised by a tax on incomes over $1 million and will be used to purchase existing housing stock and build new homes as well. The Social Housing Agency plans to acquire more than 800 units and build 600 more by 2031. This was by Erica C. Barnett in PubliCola. And if you want to support Erica on Patreon, do that. I am a supporter of Erica's on Patreon. It's local journalism, and she's one of the best covering Seattle stuff. Really, really great. So the Public Housing Agency that passed, basically the powers that be, the Amazons and the Googles and everybody else of the world didn't want this to pass because they didn't want to pay the taxes. And it passed because people voted on it. The larger group of people voted on it, not just the people who have money. And now it's raised a ton of revenue because there's a ton of people that make apparently over $1 million a year in the Seattle region. And so they're going to build those housing units. They're going to buy housing units. And it's great that they've been getting the money together to start that social housing agency because I want to see how it proved to work. Mike Eliason, who was on the show about 6 months ago or so, or at least late last year, he's now joined on board with them and has been working with them as well. So really good people involved. Really great to hear that they're actually going to get revenue from this, from the taxes, and they're going to be able to put it to good. And I hope that it succeeds because I want to see more housing built of any type. Okay, this is kind of similar and related. Colorado renters get equity. A program called Renters Rewards, created by the passage of an affordable housing ballot measure in 2022, is kicking off in Colorado. Developers who wish to participate in the program get low-interest loans from the state to build housing, and the returns that would usually go to banks or developers get returned to renters. Renter Rewards allows tenants to build their own equity if they pay rent on time and get cashback rewards and matches for creating savings. This was by Dee Stribling in Multi-Housing News. Yeah, so I think we talked about this back when it passed. I was really excited about this program in 2022 when it passed. It was a state ballot measure, and it's really interesting. Basically allows tenants to build their own equity if they pay rent on time, and then get rewards also that can be matched by the housing agency. And the way that they're allowed to do this, and well, I guess I should back up, one of the reasons why this should be done is because when you're a renter, you don't get a lot of the benefits that come from owning a home. You don't get equity that's in your home that you can take out at any other time, like in HELOC loans or things like that, home equity loan guarantees and things like that. You also don't get a lot of, if you pay your mortgage on time, you get good credit, right? So one of the things that happens for credit reports and stuff, they don't care if you pay your utility bills online or on time, or if you pay, if it's done by a credit card, sure, they'll give you credit for that. But if you pay things on time, you don't get credit for that. We can talk about the equity of the credit system overall as a system in the United States or around the world. But one of the things that is frustrating is that people that are owning homes really get a lot of extra benefit for owning homes that renters really just don't get, even if they're good renters and they take care of business every month. So this is a really cool program that allows renters to actually build equity because they're helping the agency, and it creates a revolving fund for building more affordable housing. So when the renters are there and they're paying their rent and they're getting housing, then the agency can build more housing. And so what's really cool about this is that basically it's following a similar track as what Montgomery County, Maryland is doing. They take the profits from the development they help fund, they give the developer a loan for the fund, but it's at a lower rate than, say, a bank would do. So the bank would take the profits, but what they're doing in Montgomery County is they're lowering their rents. They're making it more affordable for people. So taking the profits and basically internalizing it as rent subsidy. And then in Colorado, it's the form, it comes in the form of a low interest loan to the developer who wants to participate specifically in this program. And then the profits that would be generated go back to the renters themselves in the form of rewards or savings matches in savings. And so it's specific things you can save for. So this is a really cool way to look at housing and public housing and supporting renters, and also for getting agencies to build housing. So I really like that. I thought it was really interesting. And hopefully more programs like this and the social housing program in Seattle and like Montgomery County, Maryland start to take off and like see the value of these places that they're creating. Okay, next up. Utah looks to preempt Salt Lake City street safety. A new bill making its way through the Utah legislature looks to make Salt Lake City do extra work to prove that bike lanes are working as intended and not quote unquote impeding cars. The bill would also force the city to adhere to building less safe lane widths at 11 feet and would require stakeholder engagement to remove parking spaces. Advocates believe the bill would be a way for well-connected people to get crucial traffic safety improvements removed. This was by Kia Wilson in Streetsblog USA. There's an article in Cycling West about this too. And basically, the bill would mandate that Salt Lake City build 12-foot traffic lanes despite their known safety issues. Talked about that with Shima Hamidi. Dr. Shima Hamidi, we did on episode 464. So if you want to learn more about why 10-foot lanes are safer, go back to there. And then also, they're trying to like reduce the amount of safe streets improvements that cities can make, and specifically Salt Lake City. Even AASHTO recommends that lanes specifically 12 feet or more should be on streets higher than 45 miles per hour, which Salt Lake City has none of in the area that they're legislating, and which is something that came from Cycling West. So one of the projects that the legislators are really annoyed at isn't even finished yet. They're just annoyed because they think that bike lanes and pedestrian improvements and all this stuff gets in the way of cars, which is a real windshield perspective type thinking. But legislating it and preempting the city from doing these safety projects is even more annoying because you're going to end up with less safe streets. And also the other thing is just like basically they're making locals litigate. And they're making them prove that the bike lanes aren't causing an impediment rather than the motorists having to prove that they're making things less safe. And so I feel like if the pendulum swung the other way, it would be interesting to see if drivers, if we did make a law, something like we should be able to do these things in all places, and car drivers, if they're complaining, they should prove that their faster driving makes people more safe, which it would be never happen and would be, figured out to be ridiculous on its face. Car drivers are really frustrating in this respect because they complain so much about these little things that are actually big on street safety, and they can't do anything. And we can't do anything about it because we have to litigate them. We have to prove it over and over and over again. I feel like we have tons of research that shows this, and why can't these legislatures, get that in their hands? It's all in their minds about what they're annoyed by and what they think is unfair, which in terms of fairness, it's fair to keep people alive, isn't it? That's my frustration. Moving to walkable cities increases walking. Using smartphone data related to 2 million people, researchers found that moving to a walkable city increased steps per day by 1,100. The steps also were at a faster pace and amounted to 11 minutes of extra walking, which can boost health. People that move between equally walkable areas didn't increase their counts, suggesting that the built environment influences people's behaviors. This was by Eve Liu in Scientific American. Yeah, really interesting study. I like this one. I thought that it was really interesting. They were able to take cell phone data from 2 million different people and figure out that basically if you move to a new city and it wasn't walkable where you were and it is walkable now, you actually walk a lot more. I think I found that out when I moved from Austin to here, even though I walked a fair amount in Austin. I think probably more than most people, but I did find that here in San Francisco, I walk a lot more. And even after I sold my car, I would walk even more, take the bus more, and et cetera, et cetera. So I think this is a really interesting finding. It's really cool that we can figure out actually what improves people's behaviors. Now we need to build more walkable neighborhoods so more people can walk. Speaking of walking, a new model for New York City created by a team at MIT led by Andras Sivtsuk is the first to map foot traffic in a U.S. city. A pedestrian-based model for each city could change how they plan for transportation infrastructure and the impacts of new development. It also models pedestrian safety and can determine per pedestrian crash data, showing more realistic risk scenarios. This is by Peter Dzikis in MIT News. We had Andras on episode 328 to talk about his book about walking. But this research group that he's the head of assembled a data set of sidewalks and crosswalks and footpaths all over New York City, mapped them all, and it's really the first complete model of pedestrian activity in every city. And so basically it helps pinpoint locations where there's lots of pedestrians, lots of pedestrian hazards, like traffic crashes and things like that, and where streets are in need of an upgrade. And so one thing that was really interesting about this study was that, basically people think, oh yeah, Manhattan, that's where most of the foot traffic is in the city. But while that's kind of the case, there's actually a lot of boroughs that contain really pedestrian heavy stretches of sidewalk that actually need investment on behalf of walkers that might not get it now, because Manhattan is known as the place where the most pedestrians are. And so I think that's really interesting, and be able to digitize and datamatize, if that's a word, all this pedestrian data, so you can see where people are walking and where the high, traffic areas are. It's really fascinating to look at that data and see where places that could take improvements could get it, and then also where places that might be invested in already might get, I'm not going to say too much investment, but might be getting the lion's share of the investment now. And so we could kind of grow the pie to get more people, more places, more investment. Giving cities more transportation money. A new bill would allow metro areas to get more federal money for transportation than previous formulas that favored state DOTs. The bipartisan sponsored bill would reorganize a system that just gives 16% of funds to areas that contain 75% of the roads. Local roads are also more likely to be in poor condition and have poor safety records. This was by Kia Wilson in Streetsblog USA. Yeah, and we talked with Adi Tomer about this, and actually I think that number probably comes from him and his research at Brookings. But basically, what I think we're talking about is rethinking and recalibrating formula funds that go to states from the Federal Highway Administration. These formula funds are the way that state DOTs get a lot of their money, and then they end up spending it on rural roads, on roads that aren't in cities, on places that, on functions that aren't necessarily, like highway expansion and things like that. When actually local roads are in poor condition, they need a lot of help, they need a lot of funding, they generate a lot of the gas tax money already that exists, and also they are the ones where people are driving the most cars and causing the most damage, which impacts buses and bikes and things like that as well. But 16% of the funds go to areas that contain 75% of the roads. There needs to be more money that goes to that 75% area. And so this is a way to do it. I don't know if the state DOTs will be on it. As we mentioned before, the state DOTs are the ones that are really, really aiming to spend more money on formula funds because they're frustrated that more money went away from the usual formulas where they didn't have control. But ultimately, I think state DOTs have way too much control now anyways. They always get way more money. They have basically these huge slush funds they can spend on any roads, and then also on engineering and things like that. And so we get this status quo from the way that the funding system is set up. And so if we could change this specifically, we might actually end up in a better place. Self-surveillance. A Super Bowl commercial for Ring cameras has backfired spectacularly on the company. What they presented was a way to find lost dogs through the camera network using AI. What they actually showed was a dystopian future of neighborhood human surveillance. Ring, now owned by Amazon, received backlash early on due to police partnerships and continues to be problematic when it comes to privacy issues. This is by Jason Kobler in 404 Media. Since this article came out, Ring has also backed away from a little bit from Flock, which is the company that pulled in and processed all of the information. People in cities are now pushing back on traffic cameras because they think that the camera data that's collected is going to be used for immigration enforcement, from police enforcement, from other things that create harm. And we're seeing now that people are being profiled. We're seeing instances in places like Minnesota where the folks that are there, the Border Patrol agents and ICE, actually have cameras and they can take pictures of people. And then the pictures, even if they're not doing anything wrong, they can go to their house and find them and, harass them and things like that. So I think that this is a interesting backlash that has occurred because of the Super Bowl commercial, because they showed a world in which people don't want to be surveilled. Finding dogs is nice. That's great. But at the same time, I think people don't want to be tracked. It's a privacy, issue. People don't want to be surveilled. They don't want to be followed. They don't want to be put on a list of any kind. That's kind of where this seemed to be heading. And I think that this is, these articles that are showing this are pushing forward on the a more privacy front. Growth changing states. Texas and Florida are no longer the top states when it comes to in-migration, as North Carolina has usurped them in growth. The Carolinas, Georgia, and Tennessee are now making up 60% of net domestic migration. Bill Fulton believes Texas and Florida are slowing due to a sharp decrease in international immigration, but the weather might also be a factor, with temperature highs increasing over the last few decades. This was by Bill Fulton in The Future of Where. yeah, it's hot in the summertime. Like a place like Austin, it's like it's over 100 degrees for several days and it's hot. People don't want to do that, especially if they are not used to it. But yeah, I find this is really interesting, that migration, that immigration, domestic migration, net domestic migration. Most people are going to the South, to the Carolinas, Georgia, and Tennessee rather than Texas and Florida, which were the major magnets for people in the past. Obviously, immigration has slowed down because of the ICE actions, but also it seems like people are choosing to go places because of climate change. Interesting that. We still haven't figured out, what climate change impacts are over time, but it looks like moving around, and it's a moving target to a certain extent. But also, I think Florida's had its own problems with people not wanting to move there because of climate change, but also the insurance rates because of climate change in part. So I think that's going to be a major factor in the future as well. The high cost of throwing things away. Garbage is a $67 billion industry in the United States, and Americans throw away 5 pounds of trash per day per person. But reduced space for waste and potential for leaching from food and toxic items are showing the need for alternative solutions. Additionally, our recycling network isn't as robust as it should be as plastics overwhelm the system. The solution is zero waste, but it will take a lot of work to achieve. This was by Jill Edinger in Ethos. Yeah, so I think that this is something that we have not talked about enough, is recycling and what we actually can do versus what we do now, and trash and taking things out. I think it's also not fair to put it on all individual people when, it's hard to make decisions. If you're going to try to reduce your waste, it's really hard because packaging at grocery stores, because of the packaging of things that you order online, plastics are everywhere, boxes are everywhere. And so I think this needs to come from up higher so that the companies are responsible for selling and making sure that things are compostable or recyclable. And, there's a lot of plastics out there with a number on it, but it actually isn't recyclable. Also, Asian countries aren't taking trash anymore. We used to send trash there for them to recycle, and they aren't doing that as much too. So not that that's a solution, because obviously it wasn't, but that's actually one of the things that I think has made people start to reckon with the idea that maybe we weren't doing as much as we needed to in the past. Okay, bonus items. These are the items that I thought might be interesting to folks, but weren't the ones that were the click the most. But maybe folks here might find them interesting as well. A new startup could change the way energy is dispersed at filling stations around the country. The idea is that batteries at stations fill up based on the time of day and energy costs and can disperse to vehicles or back to utility at times of high demand using much less power. This was in the cool down. Yeah, so it's interesting. Basically the idea would be, so instead of charging directly from the utility, these fueling stations would, basically pull in battery power overnight or at a time when the electricity was costing less, and then disperse it at times when it was really expensive. And so what that allows to do is basically if you have a filling station with a bunch of battery packs, they can decide when to disperse, and then also it can make dispersing energy to battery electric vehicles faster. And so it makes it simpler to fill up. I think it's a really interesting idea, and it's probably going to be tested over time. As more and more parcels are delivered in Dutch cities, officials are trying to come to grips with the increasing numbers of delivery vehicles and are looking to parcel lockers. But there is caution due to the space these lockers take up and how they might impact historic city centers. This was in NL Times. Yeah, so allowing cities to put in parcel lockers is a big deal, especially if they can be delivered by active transportation means or cargo bikes or things of that nature. But they also could cause a problem because there might be so many of them. It's like a lot of mailboxes and stuff sitting over the city. And if you have a historic city center, the aesthetic quality of these boxes might make a big difference. New fare gates in the BART system are making the agency $10 million annually, and 960 hours in maintenance work across multiple stations has been reduced. This is in the San Francisco Chronicle. Yeah, there's some benefits from, taking this approach to fare management, fare evasion, those types of things. Also, it said that crime has gone down a bunch too because of the new fare gates. So a lot of other cities are looking to this now. I see a lot of folks interested in what BART's done, and $10 million annually is good. I think that's after payments. I wasn't able to look up the details beforehand, but if somebody could tell me, that'd be great. We can note it on the notes in the next show. But 10 million is good, and I think the fare infrastructure is good, helping the agencies, especially those that are suffering right now because they don't have the funding. And we just got that loan, which is good, from the state. It wasn't as much as we thought it should be, and also I think Gavin kind of screwed us a little bit, but it's there, $590 million instead of 750 or $1 billion like we wanted ultimately. And I don't quite understand, I need to read up more on this because I don't understand why it's a loan. Why isn't it a grant? Or maybe it's a forgivable loan, I don't know, but it's frustrating that the structure of it, maybe that wasn't explained very well. It's just everybody says, oh, we got a loan, but I I don't quite understand what the deal is. So if somebody could explain to me the deal, that'd be great. I need to read up more on it. But that's the one thing I had a question on. The archive of architectural and urban criticism at the website Curbed, going back to 2004, has been wiped out. It's a shock that history and important media are wiped out and disappeared in their original form so easily. This was an architect's newspaper. I think this is the problem with the internet and the ephemeral nature of it. People thought these things would last forever, but they have to be stored on a server somewhere. And it's not like they're stored on a paper that can just be archived in a hallway or something like that, or archived in a library. They are basically on a website, and they're made of bits and bytes, and then once they're gone and they're erased. Obviously, there is the Wayback Machine and the Internet Archive. There's other archive programs out there, so you can probably find these articles if you really, really try, but it would be nice to get it from the original website too. I've had this frustration lately too, where old websites that I was part of were not maintained, and then their functionality went down a lot. And so at some point, you can't even get into the website to save it, as it were, and so you have to go to the Wayback Machine to find it. It's really frustrating. If it was an easy, language and it was easily hosted, it wouldn't be a problem. But some really important websites are now gone. In Idaho, Ada County commissioners have voted to formally oppose a property tax that would support more transit service in the region. The agency's current budget is just $30 million, and voters would have to approve such a levy by 2/3 vote. This was by Boise State Public Radio. Basically, the county commissioners are very conservative, and they don't want our friends at the transit agency to fund the transit system with property taxes. And so they are pushing back on it, which is frustrating because I was looking up the other day. They have a very, very low budget. $30 million. I think other cities of its size have $90 to $100 million. So they have a third of the budget that many cities of their regions of their size has. And so I think that's frustrating. I think it's frustrating because there's so much benefit that comes from transit and expansion. Hopefully, Elaine Clegg and the folks up there can get some stuff done to get them more revenue, but I don't know how they're going to do it given the opposition at the county level. Speed bumps in Philadelphia are being installed improperly, according to a city comptroller's report. 95% of the bumps are above a standard 10% grade, while many were found to be twice that number. This was in WHYY in Philadelphia. I find it funny to think that there was a contractor going around trying to build speed bumps and they didn't have a proper plan for them or something like that. The bumps are all wrong. Apparently they're damaging cars, and then people who get their cars damaged by a speed bump can go to the city and apply for funding to get their cars fixed or something along those lines, or they can appeal to see if the damage is done by the speed bump can be fixed, because the bottom of cars keep getting scraped apparently by these speed bumps. But I don't know, maybe it's actually a good thing to make people slow down because they know. But I understand that would be frustrating to hit a speed bump and expect a speed bump of a certain type and size that's standard, but maybe it wasn't, and so you get your underguard of the car crunched or something like that. But also I just find it interesting that they're not standard, or there's not some way to build them that is easily replicated over the whole city. I don't know. Finding interesting news. Okay, that's it for today for the news. I appreciate you all getting through this with me. I actually have been, for some reason, I think I have some allergies or something. The tree pollen is really high. I've never really felt like I had this before, but progressively throughout the years, at February, March, I seem to have this problem with some allergies or something, and it doesn't affect me super a lot. But at the same time, I've had to cough after every single news item this week, which is really frustrating because then I have to go back through and edit really heavily to take it all out. So you probably didn't hear it, but I want to acknowledge that maybe you heard some kind of funky noise, and that was probably me trying to cough, or my voice was getting hollow or something along those lines, and then I drank some tea. So in its format here, you probably hear the very edited format, but I just want to say that, it's been so frustrating. Okay, this week and every week, I want to thank our generous Patreon supporters. You guys are awesome and keep the show going by listening and supporting each month. This show and Talking Headways really wouldn't be here without you, so thank you very much. And you can support the show by going to patreon.com/theoverheadwire. We've had people sign up all throughout the last couple years, and really appreciate it. Recently, we had a bunch of folks signing up for the $1 a month to be able to get the podcast without ads. You're going to get this ad, of course, but you're not going to get the outside ads or the extra bonus podcasts that are advertised to you in your podcatchers. So $2 a month will get you some stickers and a handwritten note. $10 a month will get you one of our scarves. I've sent out a scarf recently to a new recent $10 subscriber, so thank you very much. Also, I want to mention that we did produce an audiobook version of Raymond Unwin's 1909 classic, Town Planning and Practice, and if you want to get your hands on one, go to raymondunwin.com. Okay, listener questions and comments. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to tweet at us, or I said tweet, but I meant skeet, I guess. Find us on any of the social sites where the podcast appears. Feel free to email us at theoverheadwire@gmail.com. If you have any questions, shoot them over to me at theoverheadwire@gmail.com. Questions are welcome. Comments are welcome. Even if you don't want it read out on the podcast, I love getting people's reactions. And I had a couple questions earlier in the show, so hopefully folks will send them my way. Puppies and Butterflies is part of the show. Is something fun, interesting, or maybe it just didn't fit in other sections. I'm sad that the Olympics is over. 2 weeks ago, we said that the Olympics were coming, and now they're over in the time span of a Monday show, I guess. So that's, a bummer. The trailer for The Mandalorian Grogu came out. That was really interesting and exciting. I'm really hyped for that. But yeah, I am sad about the Olympics disappearing. I think David Roberts said it the best, is like the one time in every 2 years, people around the world can watch the same weird stuff. The opening and closing ceremonies are fabulous. They're always weird and magical, and it's great to see all that sportsmanship. I love that. I don't like some of the stuff that's going on with the hockey team, but we won't go in there. But so really great sport. I'm sad to see that like people like Jessie Diggins are retiring, but happy for her future life, where she's not going to be in front of the cameras every 4 years. I remember watching in Pyeongchang when they won the gold, and I was just so super stoked in 2018 when that happened, and I've been watching ever since. And so we always have some new folks to root for every year. I have some favorites that I love to watch, but favorite sports and stuff. But yeah, so 2 years in LA, I guess, at the next Olympics. Hopefully that goes off without a hitch. I hope that it's more equitable and fair too. We have the World Cup this summer, of course, too. So that's going to be a test, I think, of our systems and things like that. And our negative aspects might be exposed, unfortunately. But we'll see. So yeah, you can find me on Blue Sky, Mastodon, LinkedIn, Instagram, sometimes Threads, Substack, YouTube, and of course at my website, theoverheadwire.com, and in your inbox every morning if you sign up for the newsletter. On Flickr at Transit Nerds, you can find me there. I still haven't done as much there as I should. I have so many pictures now of China and transportation modes and stuff. I need to do that. Everything else is at The Overhead Wire. Thanks for joining us at Mondays at The Overhead Wire. Thanks to our generous patrons for sponsoring this week's podcast. Thank you all for signing up, and we'll see you next time.
Talking Monday.